Welcome back to the Vanessa G Fitcast. Today I have on a very, very special guest. I have one of our amazing coaches here at Vital Spark, Miss Olivia Glosser. Olivia actually joined us at the end of 2023, and she pretty quickly proved herself to be a top coach. She came to us with 4 years of experience already in the online coaching and nutrition and fitness coaching space. And so combining her past years of experience with our unique systems and methods here at Vital Spark, she started getting really incredible client results right away and truly turning her one-on-one clients into just raving Olivia fans. A lot of that really comes down, in my opinion, to how relatable Liv is. Having in the past gone through her own journey, losing nearly 40 pounds herself by healing her own metabolism, building a healthy relationship with food, and really creating a sustainable lifestyle. And then again, more recently, she's lost 40 pounds through her own postpartum journey, having become a mom last September to her adorable little baby boy, Hayes. So today I am just so excited for her to be able to share her story and really inspire and motivate you all to hopefully find that same long-term sustainable balance that Coach Olivia has found. So Olivia, welcome to the Vanessa G Fitcast.
Thank you. I am so excited to be here. And I think you really hit the nail on the head. I think I was kind of thinking before coming on here about just kind of my coaching experience and my journey being a coach and just really recognizing how much of my journey has shaped the way that I coach today. And so I'm really excited to be here and to chat about it.
Yeah. Well, let's even start from, the beginning. I know that you've mentioned in the past that your, just becoming conscious of your body started as a young kid and, just continued into high school. So take us to the beginning. Like, when did you first maybe become aware of your body and not feeling comfortable in your body and start to maybe make some changes for better or for worse?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think going back to really being a young girl, I was always kind of the bigger friend. Even as being very young, I've always been thicker. That's just is how I've always been. And I remember being younger and just thinking oh, I'm big boned, or I'm just this is just my body type. But I vividly remember going back to school shopping and standing in dressing rooms and trying on jeans and just crying. That was the worst experience ever. And so I think even just taking it back that far is when I was really aware of being uncomfortable in my body. Um, and that really followed me through till high school is when I really started dieting. It's when I, tried to do cardio. I would go to the gym before school in the morning, to go run on the treadmill, and then would go to school all day, go to sports practices, and just really was trying to be conscious of what I was eating. I did diets. Being on sports teams in high school, we would travel to go play other teams, and afterwards everyone would get Taco Bell or McDonald's, and I would be packed a salad with chicken, because I was just
Oh
so
man.
hyper focused on well, I need to lose weight, that that really impacted me even through high school. And that's where I would really say my fitness journey started, even though I wasn't really doing it the right way.
Got it. Okay, so
Yeah.
definitely sounds like started very young with having some self-consciousness around your body. You were already identifying as being the bigger kid, and I can imagine, a lot of the psychological just feeling like you need to be different than your friends. You need to eat differently than your friends, and you have to make these changes to change your body to feel like you're fitting in. How did that,
Yeah.
as you were in high school and you're starting to try these different diets, how did that work out for you? How did you feel trying these different diets? Walk me through that a little bit more.
Yeah, I remember it was this one very specific diet that, oddly enough, was supposed to speed up my metabolism, because I always believed I had a very slow metabolism, which really did the opposite. I was probably eating 800 calories a day.
Oh gosh.
Um, now knowing what I know, I'm that's really counterproductive. But beside the point. Um, I remember, I was allowed to have, and I think the word allowed to have is a big red flag in itself, but I was
Mm.
allowed to have a snack that was like cucumber and carrots, and I would have it at like this break time of like in between classes. And I remember it would like make me feel so nauseous because I was so hungry that I wanted like more, but that was like the snack I was allowed to have. So I just remember like that feeling and just not ever feeling satisfied. And it really, that diet, I continued to do it for years over and over again. And it might make me lose a little bit of weight in the beginning, but I always regained it when I decided I didn't want to just eat carrots and cucumbers. And it always led to being so consistent and then having one weekend where I was like, screw it, I'm not doing this anymore. Like, I'm gonna eat all of the foods. And I would eat all of the foods. And then come Monday, I would feel so sick because I was just like caught in this cycle of like all or nothing and really just having a terrible relationship with food. And so ultimately led to a really poor relationship with food because I was in that constant cycle of like restricting myself and then, going all in and like going overboard. It became this like this view of like certain foods being good and certain foods being bad. It really mentally was so unhealthy, and physically it didn't really help me get anywhere because I would
Mm.
lose a little bit of weight and gain back more. And it ultimately got to the point where it wasn't even working anymore. I was eating 800 calories a day and not losing weight because I had bottomed out my metabolism. Again, doing the opposite of what this diet was quote unquote supposed to do.
Gosh, yeah, especially in those early days where metabolism was really like a buzzword in just sucking people into these crazy diets. And I remember even like with, almost like a lot of the popular like cereal brands would even start to use that. Like I vividly remember in high school getting really into like the Special K diet because that was supposed to help my metabolism. And I remember being in high school and having like the like snack slash lunch break where I could be having like a nice balanced lunch meal and I would just have like two little Special K bars. Like, oh, this is enough to just like purely like put that edge on my hunger so I can get to the next meal. And it's like this competition to eat as little as possible was always my goal. It sounds like that's kind of
Mhm.
where you were at as well, of like, let me just eat the salads with chicken and just like eat as little as I possibly can, to really just knowing that, oh, if I eat these small amount of calories, I'm bound to lose weight because that's what they're telling me. And then you ultimately find
Mhm.
yourself instead with a bottomed out metabolism and not even being able to lose any weight, even at such a young age when that's for many women that should be like the prime ages of being able to transform your body if you're doing things correctly.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And that's really what followed me into college, where I ultimately really started like with my fitness journey of doing things, I would say, quote unquote, the right way, like the healthy way. Because I had tried, I went to college and I gained like 15 pounds in the first, I want to say like month and a half or 2 months in college.
Classic.
And yeah, and so I had tried this metabolism diet one more time. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do this. And my body was just not responding at all. And that's what really triggered me to like, there's got to be another way. There has to be a way I can do this without like eating nothing. And that's what really got me into, what I know now of being able to heal my metabolism properly to, work with my body for weight loss instead of fighting against it.
Amazing. I of course hate when we have to experience these, not so great experiences with our bodies, but like even hearing your story, it just reaffirms why you're such a great coach, because I think we have to go through our own battles of trying all the wrong things, struggling with our own bodies, and that's what helps us be effective when it comes to coaching and working through those issues. So, you are honestly an anomaly in that you were able to still recover a lot of these things at a very young age, where many women, don't get until their late 20s or even their 30s or even their 40s before they wake up and say, you know what, there has to be a better way where I can work with my body, work with my metabolism instead of against it. So for you, you eventually found coaching, and that was a part of your journey, from my understanding, of how you were able to find a better way of doing things. So walk us through that a little bit. How did we go from, these 800 calorie like quote unquote metabolism boosting diets to finding a more balanced approach and developing a healthy relationship with food? Like, what was that process like for you?
Yeah. So, like I said, I knew that there had to be another way. There had to be, something that I wasn't doing. Something was not clicking anymore. And so, it was kind of the rise of online coaching, I would say. When, I started to see some people doing coaching and I was just really curious. I was like, what's going on here? And I vividly remember it was like spring break. I was going on a trip with my parents and was sitting in the car, and it was like the days of like PDF challenges. And like
Hmm.
I was like, should I do this? It's $50. And I was like going back and forth. I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I should do this. And I decided, you know what? Like, what the hey? I might as well. So I ended up joining this challenge, which really wasn't coaching, but it introduced me to macros and protein and weightlifting. And so that's where I started to really kind of get a little like glimpse of maybe this is kind of where I should be going. Maybe this is what I'm missing. And from that challenge, I, learned that I was way under eating. And from there, I ended up actually moving into one-on-one coaching because I, wanted that personalized support. I wanted someone to be like, you know what, this is really, the missing piece rather than me continuing to guess. Um, and so through that process is really where my journey took off, and I was able to heal my metabolism. I was able to learn about how strength training and making sure I was eating protein and healing my metabolism would ultimately help me get to the goals I wanted of being able to lose the weight.
Amazing. You truly were very, very lucky in that you found these things early on in that just initial age of the boom of online coaching. And I'm so glad that you did, because that really did start you on that path of finding the transformation within your own body, and that led you into coaching. So let's talk about that a little bit. When did you find that transition into coaching? What did that look like? What made you even want to be a coach at this point?
Yeah. So, I mean, throughout my experience, like working with a coach, I was a sponge. I would always tell my coach, like, I'm going to question everything, and not because I like don't trust you, but because I want to know. Like, I want the knowledge of all of these things. And so I just became a sponge. I started doing research, I kept asking questions. And ultimately, in that journey, I lost, like you had mentioned, like almost 40 pounds. And so at that point, so then my friends were asking me like what I was doing and how I had gotten results, and I was able to really share with them and, help them to start getting results too. And it was one of my really close friends actually, she had said, like, you're really good at this. Like, why don't you like do this? And at first I was like, me, and like, no, like I can't, I'm not going to do that. Like, what? And the more I sat there and thought about it, the more, I mean, I was in college, I was in a sorority. I had like lots of people around me who had noticed that I had, lost weight, and I was feeling really confident, and I, was still able to I was able to go to social events and, still like maintain my results. Like I was able to go be social and not, avoid any food or anything like that. I really had that food freedom. So the more that I was able to do that, more people were asking me what I was doing, or, how I could help them. And I started to think more and more about coaching. And I, knew how passionate I was just because of my own story, and ultimately decided that, I wanted to become a coach because I wanted to make that difference and I wanted to be able to help people in that way.
That's really an inspiring journey, because I don't think many women are in college thinking about like, how can I help other women with their health and fitness transformations, and having that kind of like passion to coach other people. But it makes a lot of sense. I mean, Liv, you are truly wise beyond your years, and it definitely makes a lot of sense how you would be so quickly moving into something like that at such a young age, and very quickly starting to make an impact and allowing that to lead down this path of incredible impact that you've had now over the years. So I know that over the course of your journey, now you were getting into coaching, you beyond college. I know that you had a big cross country move as well. Like, walk us through some of the lifestyle just changes that were happening. And how did you manage to maintain this transformation that you've had and maintain these health and fitness changes in your life despite just so many different circumstantial changes happening?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, after college, I decided to move across the country. So I moved from California to North Carolina, which was an amazing experience. I've since moved back, but I've had lots of just different changes in my life. And I think one of the biggest pieces that has allowed me to continue on in my fitness journey, no matter what changes it might be, whether it's moving across the country, moving back across the country, busier seasons in my life, having a baby, like all of these different changes. I think the biggest thing that I always continue to remember is that different seasons of life will require different things from you. And one of my best questions that I reflect on frequently, I ask clients frequently, is what does your 100% look like today? Because I think it gets so easy for us to look at optimally what we should be doing, right? It's like so easy to be like, yeah, I should be, and putting the word should on like, I should be, hitting my nutrition goals and getting the water and the workouts and the steps and the nighttime routine and all of these different things. But sometimes it's just not feasible to do every single thing. And so I think it's important for like myself to consider, like, what does my 100% look like today, or even this week, or even this month? And really allowing that to change with the way that my life changes, because ultimately that's what makes it sustainable, is when we can allow our fitness to move with our life rather than thinking that we're always going to show up in the exact same way, because the reality is that that's just very likely not sustainable and not feasible. So I think really being able to reflect on that and allowing that to be okay, that not every single day or every single season is going to look the same, has allowed me to continue on my journey throughout, all of these various changes.
I love that question, and that's probably a reminder that I need myself too. And so I imagine that a lot of the listeners are really banking that one as, hey, what is my 100% today? What is my 100%, this week, this month, and really just can benefit from continuing to ask ourselves that question. So I love that you shared that one. I'm curious though, Liv, I want to put this back on you a little bit. So you mentioned a few different like lifestyle changes that you had, or just various life events that you had navigated through, from the cross country move to pregnancy and postpartum and all these different aspects of life. I'm curious, what does your 100% look like at some of those different phases of life? Like, can you give an example of how you personally put that into action?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So, I mean, I know it's been a while since that move happened, but I remember when I was moving, some of the things I really focused on were even just like, how could I make sure I'm eating protein at every meal? How can I make sure I'm drinking enough water? Like, it maybe right now, like for this next 2 weeks, I'm not going to work out, and that gets to be okay. But like, where can I get intentional movement in, and really just bringing it down to the basics? I know during like postpartum, very similarly, my life looked very different, and I even had to take a look at how I could show up for myself in that season of life, and really recognizing what was my 100% then. And in that period, like in the early days, it was like, how can I drink water and how can I make sure I'm actually even eating like 3 meals a day and getting as much sleep as possible. And then, as I progressed, it turned more into, okay, I'm starting to feel more confident. Maybe now I'm focusing on hitting my protein goal and getting in steps, and really like working my way back up to some more habits. But I just think that it really has been based on what is my 100% and what does that look like for me, and how can I put that into place in a way that feels feasible and realistic for me.
I love it. Yeah, this is such an interesting topic to dive into, because it really is one of those things that just ebbs and flows across the different phases of our journey. And I know that obviously we've talked about like your weight loss, but I know that you've also been through different aspects of like working on gut health at certain times, like working on health more specifically. I know you've, had like strength goals at times. Like, I know that you have found different things to work on. Like, it's never been a one stop of, oh, I achieved my goal. Now I'm done. Now I'm just going to coach and help people. And like everything with myself is perfect and easy. Like you've always seemed to have something new that you're working on. What has that part of your journey kind of looked like?
Yeah, I think that's a great question because I think that's the idea is that we have a fitness journey and that journey is going to come to an end. And for me, I think it's ongoing and not in the sense of, we are never satisfied. Like, that's not where it comes from. It comes from more of a place of, as my life changes, there's different things that I just desire to work on. So I know, like, after I lost weight, I really wanted to build muscle because I wanted to, get stronger. And so I had a season of wanting to, like, focus on more strength. I know after that, I mean, there are periods of time too where I'm kind of, I am happy where I'm at and I kind of just focus on my habits. And maybe that's more in like the busier seasons of life too, where it's like maybe I'm just focusing on managing lifestyle habits too. But I know I did have a period of time where I was more focused on gut health, like you had mentioned. I noticed some symptoms that I just really wasn't feeling good. I was feeling pretty tired all day long. Um, Admittedly, I was drinking like 2 to 3 coffees and having pre-workout daily and was still
We've
feeling
all been
so
there.
exhausted. Yeah, feeling so exhausted. I had digestion issues. I just like the whole 9 yards. I just had symptoms that I knew there was something going on. So, I got support through that and was really able to focus on gut health for a season of my journey. Um I've been through a few different seasons of more focusing on weight loss. I mean, even now, postpartum, I've lost weight, but I actually haven't been focusing on that. I've been more so focusing on fueling my body so that I can also nurse and provide for my son. So, I have lost weight along with that, but it's been mostly by focusing on my habits. Um, so I think it's just kind of going through the different seasons of my life on the different things that I'm desiring at that point. Also, noticing like what does my body need right now as well.
Mm. That's huge. Really acknowledging not just like what are my desires and wants, but like what is actually my body calling for right now? What is my body asking for? What does my body need is so important. And it's again like you truly are wise beyond your years, Liv. But I'm curious, you've already accomplished so much. You've, just from like the career perspective to, becoming a mom and from what I've seen being like a really incredible mom and like really navigating your postpartum journey beautifully. And just like every aspect of you continuing to grow as a person, you really have impressed me in a lot of ways. So I'm curious, like what's next for you? What's ahead? Like what is your focuses, what are your focuses right now? And what do you see for maybe your health and fitness goals or just like other types of goals going forward?
Yeah. Yeah. So I know I kind of touched on a little bit of like what I'm doing right now in terms of my like health and fitness. So currently, I am re healing my metabolism because I did not track my intake at all during pregnancy and early postpartum. That was not a part of my 100%. And quickly learned that I actually was under eating with how much information and how much I know about my body. I was still under eating to, for what I should be breastfeeding. And so I didn't really take that into account. And so I've been, focusing on healing my metabolism, bringing it up to, my optimal intake. I am focusing on creating consistency with my movement and my workouts, and continuing to rebuild some of those habits that weren't a part of my 100% previously. I would like to focus on building some more strength. I know strength training kind of was a little bit hit or miss for me towards the end of pregnancy and early postpartum. Also, that was not part of my 100% at that point in time. So I'm really working on wanting to build up some strength again and kind of get back to the place where I felt really, really strong. I love that feeling. So those are like my closer goals is really just getting back to the habits that make me feel good and continuing to build consistency around those and then continuing to build back up strength and um continuing to get stronger to, where I feel optimal.
I love it. Yeah. And man, I feel like I could ask you questions all day long about your postpartum journey and really dive into your pre and postnatal knowledge as well. But I think maybe we need to have a separate podcast. Maybe we'll get you and Kat on, for our listeners, our other coach who's also in a postpartum journey. And maybe I can pick both of your brains as you both are pre and postnatal specialists and you are new moms. So we'll have to table that one for another day. But Liv, I mean, this has been absolutely wonderful. I think you've offered a lot of value already. One of the takeaways that I think I've already taken from what you've expressed here is that your health and fitness journey, it's an ongoing journey, and it should feel like you're not just reaching a finish line and you're done. It should feel like this ongoing journey that you're enjoying every step of the way. And that might look differently at different seasons of trying different things, of having different standards and expectations, having periods that we are really focused on big goals and we are blasting forward towards those goals, and other periods where maybe we're cruising along and we're just working on maintaining. And like all of that is the journey, and all of the joy is within the journey itself. And I think that you and your story are a really, really great example of that. And I think that's one of the many reasons why your clients love you so much. And you have that relatability, like I mentioned at the beginning. But I'm curious, Liv, before we close out here, what do you want our listeners to take away from your story? What do you want the listeners to leave this episode with?
Yeah, I think that's a big piece here, and it's something that I've been reflecting on a lot lately, is just coming back to what your 100% looks like. I think that so often we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to always be at what we think we quote unquote should be doing, or what our capacity should be. The reality is like, especially as women, and for those of like you out there who are also moms, or you work full time, or you just are busy, it's like those seasons of life are going to change, and even on a daily basis, like that might change. And so to give yourself grace and knowing that as that changes, it's okay to shift your expectations of yourself, because at the end of the day, this isn't a, point A to point B race to the finish line. This is about meeting yourself where you're at, because that's what's going to ultimately allow you to be so much more successful in the long term and to actually sustain your results.
I love it. Definitely need to just drop the mic right there and end it. But Liv, where can our listeners connect with you more? Where can they, find out more about you or maybe follow along with your journey?
Yeah, I am on Instagram at lifting with Liv Fit. That's probably the best place.
Awesome. We will include your Instagram handle in the show notes, and I highly recommend all of you go and check out Olivia's page. She just, like, as you can see from this episode, she's an incredibly just relatable, inspiring person, and she's just a lovely person to have on your Instagram feed when we know that there's not always a lot of great people out there to be following these days. She is one of the remaining few incredible, fitness accounts to be following. So 10 out of 10 recommend. But Olivia, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us and share a little bit of your story. Like I said, we'll definitely have to get you back on here.
Yeah, thank you so much. I've loved being on.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for listening. We'll be back next week with another great episode.